What's up, y'all? Brandon coming at you here. Just wanted to come on here and let you know about our new Amazon storefront we just opened up. So if you'd like to see some of the parts, products, and tools I use on this channel, head over and check it out. The link will be in my channel description section, or I'll drop it below this video. Just full transparency, we do make a small commission on each item purchased through our links, but that helps future builds and keeps this channel alive. So if you would, head over and check it out. That's amazon.com/shop/hardheadgarage. And let's get into today's video. So I've been dealing with this wonky kickdown linkage setup and throttle cable setup for long enough. Let's finally correct it with the right parts today. It's common to see a lot of people use a nut and bolt here to try to lengthen this kickdown rod itself when all the adjustments are maxed out here, and it's actually limiting the carburetor from going full throttle. I'll demonstrate that for you here now. You can see where it's binding against this bracket back here because that bend is upside down. Somebody has flipped this rod previously. But not only that, but see how much more throttle we get. That is more like what it should be towards the back. So we need to get rid of this screw here. So let's correct that today with the Chrysler throttle bracket adapter for this Edelbrock carburetor. I'm not sure if that's the correct orientation for this rod. I feel like it should be more like this. That may not even be a 4-barrel rod. It could be a 2-barrel setup for all I know. But we're going to work with what we got, do the best we can with what we have. It's going to be better than what's on here now because, like I said, we're only getting half to 3/4 throttle. And we really need to be pulling our throttle pedal ratio from somewhere around here in the middle. And I've got it close with this a little small screw and nut there, but let's set it up with the right parts today. So hopefully we can get this geometry a whole lot better. Actually have full throttle. So to remedy our issue, I went ahead and picked up the Edelbrock 1481 Chrysler throttle lever adapter to give us the correct mounting locations for the throttle cable and kickdown linkage. It's pretty simple. It's just a bracket that bolts to the side of the existing throttle bracket, but it gives us the correct locations for those mounting points. Installation is pretty simple. The small bolt goes on the top hole right below the Chevrolet mounting point here. So now we're ready to install our throttle pin into the new throttle lever adapter. And this is what a Chrysler automatic throttle pin looks like. This side, it has provisions for the actual throttle cable itself, while this side has the area for the kickdown linkage to connect to. This is what a manual transmission throttle pin looks like for a Chrysler. Notice that it doesn't have any provisions for a kickdown linkage. And this is pretty simple, straightforward. The throttle pin itself points towards the carburetor like that, and you want the kickdown linkage area pointing towards the outside. It's a 7/16 and a half inch. Snug it up, and it should be good to go. So now, before I do anything with the kickdown linkage itself, I want to make sure that I actually have full throttle. So the way I like to do that when I'm by myself is I'll take and borrow this return spring from up here. I'll temporarily hook the throttle cable up. We'll stick a quarter pin in it. And I'll pin the throttle wide open with this return spring. Now I'll go inside and push the pedal to the floor to make sure that this cable has no binding and make sure it's getting full travel. If you have to, you might have to set a brick on the gas pedal, but in this case I didn't. As you can see, the cable retracted. The angle doesn't look too steep. The throttle is wide open. It physically can't go any farther. The cable can't go down any farther as far as the throttle pedal on the floor, and it's not bottomed out here, so we're good to go as far as throttle is concerned. So I can remove this, let this come back to fully closed, and then I can go inside and make sure that the pedal has fully lifted off the floor before I move forward and do anything with the kickdown. The way I like to set my kickdown linkage up is when the throttle is fully opened, wide open throttle, there shouldn't be much movement left on this kickdown linkage itself as far as pushing it backwards. And that looks about perfect for me. You want a little bit slight movement left in that, and you may be able to move it down here. You see it's got just the slightest movement left in it. You don't want the throttle arm on the transmission itself to be bottomed out. But if you got too much slack right here, it's going to give you sloppy shift points and premature wear on the transmission. So if your length is not correct, these are threaded. You can adjust these in or out depending on how you need it. Like I said, you don't want much movement at all towards the back. That looks about perfect right there. And now all I do is I'll hook a return spring up on this to keep this held forward, and you should be good to go. So just some quick final thoughts for y'all. I've got my throttle return spring hooked up here, which is actually hooked to the throttle bracket itself. I have a light return spring hooked to the kickdown linkage. I may end up getting a shorter one so that has a little bit more tension on it, but all that's doing is keeping the kickdown linkage held forward and not prematurely activating. I may be incorrect on the orientation of this bar. I may have it upside down. When I had it upside down the other way, it was hitting right here. So just to make sure that it wasn't limiting me on any travel, I opted to go with this way. I may add a C clip or E clip here just to keep this from sliding around. But when the throttle's pinned all the way open, we got about 1/8 of an inch movement left in that, and that's what you want when you're setting up your kickdown linkage. When the throttle's wide open, you don't want much movement in that at all. You don't want it to be bottomed all the way out. That might be putting too much pressure on the throttle valve on the transmission, but 1/8 of an inch is a good rule of thumb. And if it's, see, I need to get a stronger spring to pull that back forward. If your distance is not correct, you can always take this off. You have multiple adjustment points here. You can shorten this or lengthen it by turning it in or out. And if you have the 3-piece linkage, you have an adjustment right here as well. This is just a ball head. It snaps off. You can lengthen or shorten this by turning it in or out, and then it just snaps back onto this ball head like that. So pick me up a lighter return spring for that. Like I said, I'm not sure if this is the actual correct rod for a big block 4-barrel setup, because some of them have a mounting tab somewhere in here for the return spring to mount to. That may be something off of a small block or a 2-barrel setup, but we're going to make it work with what we got. It's definitely a lot better than what we had before. We couldn't even get full throttle, and it was shifting to high gear at like 25 miles an hour, so that was no good. But yeah, just a basic rule of thumb: throttle wide open. You want just a slight amount of movement in that kickdown linkage, and you should be good to go. Like always, thank y'all for watching. Appreciate the support. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one. I almost forgot. I finally picked me up an air cleaner for this thing. And I used to be against these triangle-based air cleaners because I thought they looked kind of goofy, but actually, on this setup, I don't mind it because it's pretty low profile. It has provisions for breathers on either side if you want to use those. The foam element, it gives it more breathing surface to me than a regular shallow air filter. And I feel like this is something you could take out and wash and let it dry and reuse it. And as far as ease of installation, it's just basically that one bracket that holds the hat down on the carburetor. And it doesn't come with a supplied stud, so you'll have to use your stud. But basically all it is a piece of foam with an inner cage and an outer cage. And it just sets right down on there. It's held on with this spring. So I thought, what the heck, for 30 bucks, 32 bucks. Make sure it's tucked all in there. There we go. 32 bucks. Doesn't look too bad. What I like about it is you got easy access to your outer mixer screws, your curb idle speed, electric chuck if you have one, your kickdown linkage, all that's accessible. Unless you're changing metering rods or something, there's no real reason to get inside here. So it clears the hood, reusable filter element, can't go wrong there. So, and it doesn't look too awful bad. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the polished chrome look, but we may take that outer shell off and paint it black or something. But for the time being, it's better than nothing. And if you want to find that, you can find that at O'Reilly's. I think the part number is 1002 on that. If not, you can find it on my Amazon storefront. And if you can't find this throttle bracket adapter for the Chryslers at your O'Reilly's, the part number is Edelbrock 1481. So both of those parts will be linked in my Amazon storefront. If you would, I'd appreciate it if y'all check that out. We do earn a small commission on anything sold through our links, but that just helps future builds and keeps this channel alive. So like always, I appreciate it, and we'll see y'all in the next one.